Oh, I was just sitting in the office, kind of getting a little bit of downtime and listening to everybody talking and chatting with each other, and having this a lot of joy coming up. This thought, wow, this is amazing what we've created here. So in a few minutes, the bell is going to ring for the 1 p.m. ceremonies, and just to put it out there, the order of things, how it's going to work. We're going to begin by paying respects to Buddha Dhamma Sangha. We'll light the candles on the shrine and do some Pali chanting briefly, which for anybody who isn't familiar with the Pali chanting, that's on page 18 of Chanting Book Volume 1. And after that, then myself and Longpa Pasanno will give some words of welcome. And then there will be a request for Paritta chanting. The Sangha will begin the event with some Paritta chanting. Following on after the Paritta chanting, there will be a request for the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, and we will be giving those to people. Once the lay community has taken the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, then I will be reading about the history of the Kathina ceremony, and then we'll take it from there. Then the Kathina offering will take place. After all of the cloth has been offered and we've completed the Kathina ceremony and taken the cloth to start the sewing, there will be a 10-minute break. And once we come back, this will probably be around 2 p.m. or something, that Longpa Viratamo will be offering some Dhamma reflections on this day. And with cloth, whoever's brought cloth, if you could please locate your cloth and keep it with you. Keep it with you for the time being, and then when we announce the time for the offering of the cloth, and so your cloth is kept with you right now, and then at the time of offering the cloth, then everybody will be coming up in single file and making that offering. So we'll announce when that cloth offering will take place. So again, please keep your cloth offerings with you for now, and then when we announce the time for the offering of the cloth, then everybody will be coming up single file and making the cloth offerings. Also, when you make your cloth offerings, please don't bow. So when you make your cloth offering, please move back and then bow. We want to keep it moving because there are a large number of offerings. So please, when you do offer the cloth, when it is the time to offer the cloth, please offer and then move aside. And then you can bow from being off to the side while you allow the other people to offer the cloth. So that will keep the offerings flowing, keep it moving. Also, it's worthy of note that today we will be doing a hand-sewn Kathina. So after the ceremony, the cloth will be taken, and as Longpa Viradhammo is starting his Dhamma talk, there will be a few of the monks who are already drawing and cutting and starting to sew the cloth. Hey, Leo. Oh, yeah. A necklace has been found. Somebody dropped their necklace. Does this belong to anybody? It's just kind of looks like a back of a turtle or something. A disc with anyway, if anybody lost a necklace has just been given by a Good Samaritan who found it. Okay. Anagarika Sean, if the Anagarkas could come in through the monastic entrance and walk through this way, that'd probably be more realistic. I did not hear that. Wow. Everything's cleaned up already. Sadhu. So we're all here. Before we give the introductions, we'll just start with paying homage to Buddha Dhamma Sangha. We'll pay respects to Longpa Pasano. And we'll pay respects to Longpa Virdamo as well. They're both 51 Hansa. Their combined vasas is Longpa Pasano's mother's age. Wow. It's kind of hard to figure out how to give words of welcome for an event like this. It's like a coming together to express our faith. It's just pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing that we come together like this and come together in friendship and harmony. And just listening to everybody doing the chanting, I could almost feel or hear the faith. It reminds me of being at Wat Nong Pah, and we really have brought that tradition here. So I'll ask if Longpa Pasano could please give some words of welcome as well.
Get untangled first. Okay, as Ajahn Yaniko just said, welcoming everyone who's come from near, from afar, to join today for the Abhayagiri Kathina. And it is really heartening and inspiring to see so many people having made the effort to come today. The Abhayagiri has been established now for 28 years? 28 years. So we're definitely putting down roots. And one of the things that I think is something that Ajahn Yaniko just sort of alluded to is and actually another person I was talking to after the meal, just that there's just it's plugging into faith and devotion, and for people who are, say, from Asian culture, from Buddhist culture, and there's already a faith there, but then to be able to express it and to be able to follow that, be able to fulfill that faith, it's a lovely gift to be able to give people. And then also for the kind of Americans and the Farangs, too, that there is the seeds of faith and devotion are being planted, because it's. I mean, I can certainly speak for myself. I did when I first got interested in Buddhism. Faith was not it wasn't one of the reasons why I got interested in Buddhism. I wanted to learn how to be more peaceful. But then it's as you have contact, and I was, and say myself, and Ajahn Virdhamma, we were extremely fortunate to be able to meet an exceptional teacher, Lupa Cha, and those kind of roots of faith were planted in us. And so that to be able to kind of transmit that to this culture, because what the Buddha points to as like spiritual powers, faith plays a role, and it always has to be balanced. Faith, effort, mindfulness, samadhi, concentration, and wisdom, and to be able to rely on that as a spiritual faculty, because on a certain level, freeing your mind from suffering, making yourself peaceful and happy, is not a rational, logical it's not a rational, intellectual choice. Everybody wants to be happy, and everybody makes themselves more miserable. And oftentimes it's not because you don't have a good idea or even a good intention, but it's like having a foundation of something that you can have devotion towards and give yourself to is really necessary and important, so that seeing the amount of people who come today, the amount of people from very diverse backgrounds. There's many different Asian communities, Thai, Khmer, Lao, Sri Lankan, Indian here, and as well as the kind of homegrown Americans. But even that is diverse as well. So that recognizing that what pulls people to something like a ceremony of offering a piece of cloth on a Sunday. If you're logically, what sense does it make? But it is this sense of gathering and doing something communally that puts our roots in the refuges of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And it's something to really take a lot of joy and happiness in. So I'd just like to express my appreciation for everybody's efforts to come all this way, and we will continue the ceremony.
Yes, I invite you to request the Purita chanting.
Vipatipatipahaya Sapha Sampatisiddhya Sapha Tukha Vinasaya Paritang Rutamangalam. Vipatipatipahaya Sapha Sampatisiddhya Sapha Rokha Vinasaya Paritang Rutamangalam. Vipatipatipahaya Sapha Sampatisiddhya Sapha Phaya Vinasaya Paritang Rutamangalam.
Aritamita Parana Paritawana metang sabanda Avikita Chitta Paritang Manantu Sage Kame Charupe Kirisi Karatate Chandalike Vimane Dipe Rate Chakame Taruanaka Haneke Hawatumikete Bumma Chayantu Deva Chalatala Visumeya Kakanda Managa Ti tanta santi ke yang muni vara vachanang Satavo me sunantu Dhamma savana kalo ayam matanta Dhamma savana kalo ayam matanta Dhamma savana kalo ayam matanta.
Just briefly, for those of you who are new to this, some of you may be brand new here, that was the calling of the Devas, calling the forces of goodness to come bear witness to our chanting the words of the Buddha, of the Blessed One. And then as we chant these verses, then as all of you are invited to meditate, allow it to wash over you and generate even more blessings than there already are.
Namo tassa bhagavato
Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa.
Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi
Dhammang saranang gacchami, sanghang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchami, dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchami, tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Mohammalapakato samang vabuddho sugato vimutto marasapasa vinimochayanto pape sikhe manganatang vinayang buddhang varandang sirasa namami loka sanatan cha vinayakan cha tante jasate jayasiti hotu sabandaraya cha vinasamentu dhammo dajoyo viyata sasatu dase siloka savisuddhi magang hiyaniko dhammadarasadhari satavaho santikaro suchinno dhammang varantang sirasa namami mohapadalang upasantadahang kante jasate jayasiti hotu samandaraya charina samentu sadhammasena sugatanukoyo loka sapapu akilesa jeta santo sayang santiniyo jako jasawakata dhammang viditang karoti sanghang varantang sirasa namami buddha dubuddha samasila diting kante jasate jayasiti hotu sabandaraya charina samentu. Samma Sambuddha Samahesino Namo Uttama Dhamma Sasawakata Sevate Nidam Namo Mahasangha Sabdi Visuddha Sila Ditino Namo Homataya Radha Saratanataya Sasadukang Namo Homakadita Sata Sawadu Taya Sapinamo Karapapave Navigachantu Upadawa Namo Kara Subhave Nasuvati Hotu Sabada
ปัลลานัง
บัณฑิตานังจะเสวนาปูจาจะปูชนียานังเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังปฏิรูปเดสวาโสจะภูเมจะกตปุญญาตาอาตสัมมาปณิลิจเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังพาหุสัจจันจะเสปัญจวินโยจะสุสิกิโตสุภาสิตาชยาวาจาเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังมาตาปิตุอุปาทานังพุทธดาราสสังฆโหอนาคุลาจะคัมมันตาเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังดานันจะดัมมจริยาจะญาตคานันจะสังฆโหอนวาจานิคัมมานิเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังอารติวิรติปาปังมาจะปานาจะสัญญโมอาปมาโดจะดัมเมสุเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังกาลโวชนิวาโตจะสันตุติจักตัญยุตากาเลนะธัมมาสวนังเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังคันติจะโสวัจจสตาสมนานัญชดาสนังคาเลนะธัมมสากาจาเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังกโมจะพรหมจริยัญจะอริยสัจจานดาสนังเนบาลสัจจกิริยาจะเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังพุทธาสโลกดัมเมหิเจตังยาสนกัมปติยโสกังวิรจังเขมังเอตัมมังกลมุตตมังเอตานิสานิกาวานัสสะบาตมปราชิตาสัพพะตโสติงกาจันติคันเทสัมมังกลมุตตมังเจเม
ตัญจะสัพพโลกั
กั
ส
ส
มิ
มิ
ง
ง
มา
มา
นะ
นสัมภาวเยปริมาณังโกดังอโดจติริยัญจะสัมบาดังอเวรังอสสปาทังติตัญจรังนิสิโนวาสยาโนวายาวตาสวิกตมิโดเอตังสติงอดิเทยพรหมเมตังวิหารังอิรมาหุติติงชานุปกัมมสีลวาตาสเนนะสัมปาโนกาเมสุเวนยเกนังนาหิจาตุกาปเสยังปุณเรติติ
ตุกาปาตา
ชนิตุกาปยาปาตาชนิปยาโสกาปาตาชนิโสกาโหตุสาเปภิปานิโนเอตาวตาจะอัมเลหิสัมปตังปุญญสัมปตังสาเปเทวาอนุโมนันตุสาปสัมปาติสิทธิยาตานังดันตุสาตายสีลังราคันตุสาปตาภาวนาวิรตาโหตุกาจันตุเทวตากตา
สัพเพพุทธา
บาลาปาทาปาเจกานัญชยังพลังอรหันตานัญชเทเจนราคังบันดามิสาภาโส
มหาการุณิโก
นาโทอิกายสาปปานินางโคเรนวาปารมิสาปาปาโตสัมโมดิมุตตมังเอเทนะสาชวาเจนะโหตุเตชยมังกลังชยันโตโมดิยาโมเลสักยานังนันติวาดโนเอวังตวังวิจโยโหหิจยาสุจยมังกเลอปราจิตภาลังเกสีเสปัตวิโกกเรอภิเสเกสาปพุทธานังนาคาปาโตปโมทติสุนากตังสุมังกลังสุปปาตังสุโห
ติกังสุขโนสุโมโหโตจัสสุเยทังรัมมจาริสุปทาคินังกายกัมมังวาจากัมมังปดาคินังปดาคินังมโนกัมมังปณิทิเตปดาคินาปดาคินานิคัตวานลปันตเตปดาคิเนภวตุสาปมังกลังราคันตุสาปเทวตาสาปพุทธานุภาเวนัสนาโสติภวันตุเตภวตุสาปมังกลังราคันตุสาปเทวตาสาปธัมมานุภาเวนัสนาโสติภวันตุเตภวตุสาปมังกลังราคันตุสาปเทวตาสาปสังฆานุภาเวนัสนาโสติภวันตุเต
And the other thing we do, in addition to paritas, to properly start a ceremony like this is the lay community would request the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. For anybody who's not familiar with this, then and for anybody who wants to request it, it's page 126 of Book 1. But if you already know the request, then anybody who knows it, you're all welcome to do it together. If And you'd begin by, they believe, bowing 3 times and then going into the Mayang Bante Ti Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama. Lampur, are you okay giving the precepts?
Ti Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama Tudiyampi Mayang Bante Ti Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama Tudiyampi Mayang Bante Ti Saranena Saha Pancha Silani Yachama.
Okay, we can determine these refuges and precepts. This is really the foundation of a Buddhist life, to have a refuge in the triple gem of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and to have a aspiration and commitment to live with virtue and integrity of these 5 precepts. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Dhammam saranam gacchāmi.
Sangham saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Sangham saranam gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Tutiyampi buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Tutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchāmi.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Ti sarana kamanang nitithang. Anatipata veramani sikkhapadang sammadhiyami. Adinadhana veramani sikkhapadang sammadhiyami. Ame sumichachara veramani sikkhapadang sammadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang sammadhiyami. Surameraya majapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang sammadhiyami. Imani pancha sikkhapadani silena sugating yanti silena bhoga sambada silena nibbuting yanti tasma silang viso ye.
Before I go to the next step, I forgot something, but maybe it's been done already. The sheet for the lay people to read in Pali, Thai, and English, did those get passed? Did those come out of the Sanghapala office? They're all there, okay. And when we get to that part, is there a volunteer to do the Pali and Thai leading? Because it'll be a call and repeat type thing. There was only 250, so I don't think everybody's going to be able to have one. So just hum along with your friends. And then there's also an English part. There's also an English part, so there's Pali, Thai, and English. So first of all, was there anybody to do the Pali and Thai? Could there be a hand raise? Somebody who's done it before? Okay. But is there a volunteer to lead the Imani, Mayang Bante, Mayang Bante? What about for the English? Is there anybody to lead? It'll be like, and then you pause wherever those lines are. That's where the leader reads it, and then you pause where the line is, and everybody else repeats. So it's like a call and repeat type thing. You want to do it? Oh, okay. Okay. I think that's good enough, or organic. So first of all, I'll start by reading the history of the Kathina. Then after I read the history of the Kathina, our formal Kathina cloth recipients, Tantisro Tom Hemako, will take their seats. And then after they take their seats, You all will recite the Kathina offering. We call it the Apalokana, the Kathina offering verses, the Gatha, and then all the cloth will be offered. So I'll repeat this as it's happening. So I will read the history of the Kathina. This is something we do every year at Abhayagiri. I always found it very inspiring. Call God. Before the Kathina ceremony begins, we would like to take this opportunity to explain a little about its origins as a Buddhist custom. The offering of Kathina cloth by the laity to the bhikkhu sangha is a tradition which has been carried on since the time of the Lord Buddha, more than 2,500 years ago. It was established as a ceremonial act to celebrate both the relationship between the laity and the sangha and the spirit of concord within the sangha itself. It was first allowed by the Lord Buddha to a group of 30 monks who were observers of many of the austere practices. They had wished to spend the 3 months' rains retreat with him, but having been unable to reach the monastery where he was staying in time, had to spend the rains nearby. They regretted their missed opportunity, thinking, "The Lord is staying close to us, but we are not getting a chance to see him." Nevertheless, they passed the 3 months harmoniously together and, as soon as they could, despite inhospitable roads and continuing rain, with drenched robes and in a state of weariness, they made their way to Savatthi to see him. Perhaps by way of encouragement and to reward their noble efforts, it was after receiving them that the Kathina ceremony and its privileges were established by the Buddha. The Lord Buddha laid down many stipulations in order to make the offering of this cloth and the sewing of it into a robe an act of great importance to both the laity and the sangha. It is an offering that could be made only once a year at any one monastery and only where 5 or more bhikkhus have spent the rains retreat together. The cloth must be clean, freely given, and its donation must not have been instigated by the monastic community in any way. Once it has been offered to the bhikkhu sangha, it must be cut and sewn into a completely finished robe during the course of that same day. Customarily, all the bhikkhus of that monastery participate in the sewing of the robe. In this way, it becomes an act affirming the harmonious and communal nature of the sangha. Once it has been sewn, it is then offered to one bhikkhu decided upon by the sangha as being worthy of the gift. For the laity, the Kathina offering is a symbolic expression of their faith in the sangha and a reaffirmation of their eagerness to cooperate harmoniously together in order to provide for its material needs. According to the Lord Buddha, the Kathina cloth is the most meritorious of all material gifts that can be made to a sangha, bringing superlative benefits to those who have offered it. The sangha and the laity are now all assembled. If there is to be a Kathina ceremony, then now is the time for it to begin. So we'll invite our chanter recipients up. And now would be the time for the lay community to make the Kathina offering announcement, and after that, everyone would offer their cloth one by one. Do we have anyone with the sheet who would like to? This is the part where the lay community would read from the sheet, the call and repeat, if there is to be a Kathina offering. And the monastic community would all have their hands in Anjali once they start reading it.
I can do the Pali, but I can't do the Thai.
Okay, then we can start with the Pali, and then somebody who is brave enough in the Thai can do the Thai. Who has a sheet as well, because then you can read from it. Yeah.
Let's start with Namo Tassa. Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Imang Phante. Imang Phante. Sapariwara. Sapariwara. Kathina. Jivaratusa. Jivaratusa. Bhikkhu Sangha. Sadhu Phante. Bhikkhu Sangha. Imam Sapariwara. Kathina Jivaratusa. Patikanhatu. Patikanhetavaja. Imina Kusena. Kathina Atharatu Amhakanjeva Mata Pitu Ati Yatakana Tikaratam Hitaya Sukhaya ข้าแต่พระสงฆ์ผู้เจริญข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายขอน้อมถวายข้าจักรีจีวรกับทั้งบริวารทั้งหลายเหล่านี้แด่พระภิกษุสงฆ์ขอพระภิกษุสงฆ์จงรับผ้ากฐินจีวรกับทั้งบริวารทั้งหลายเหล่านี้ของข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายท่านรับแล้วขอจงปรารกฐินด้วยทานนี้เพื่อประโยชน์และความสุขแก่ข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายและญาติทั้งหลายมีมารดาบิดาเป็นต้นสิ้นกาลนานเถิด
And the English.
We have all gathered. We have all gathered to offer Kathina cloth and other richness to the sangha. We request that the sangha receive these offerings of the Kathina cloth and other richness for our long-lasting benefit and happiness. We wish to dedicate the well-being coming from our offerings to our relatives and friends, and particularly to our parents. May all beings be happy.
Sadhu. Okay, very good. And at this time, then we would invite, beginning with Yom Nong Chitima, and then each bolt of cloth would then be offered one by one onto the tray, and the recipient monks will formally receive it. And then there could be others of us off to the sides, and what we'll be doing is actually placing the cloth offerings onto the mats on the sides. Also, just as a reminder, once you offer the cloth, please move to the side, and you can move back a bit and bow a little bit later. That way it keeps it moving. That formal offering was probably one of the best examples of winging it that I've seen. So right now is just cloth offerings. Other offerings can be made a little bit later on, at any time. Yeah. Okay, and now our official Kathina chanters are going to do their announcement. So the sangha would have their hands in Anjali during this.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. This Kathina cloth and all the offerings present here belong to Jittima, Pingsapa, Anjali, Karon and family, Angsakli, Frederick Lee and family, Lalita, Suksamran, Chalita, Olan Ratana, Mr. Boyd, family and Sweet Maple, Kwanrun, Malai Tong, Hui, Hutikit Jamran, Suni, Dilerd, Siri Prai Tarasup, Nayarat Poklai, Tananton, Kamsuya Wentworth, Narumon Horakun, Nongnut Yapakdi, Panrada Meikseri Trakun, Oraya Binchen Stutz, Wipawari Sukjaram Sup, Suprani Upanan, Sirada Suntarasi, Kitipat Heman, Sopita Sorod, Titirat Ethan and family, Jirasak Rungtiwa Ryan and Patrick Sarakun, Nutwarut Jitramani, Natanan Jantason, Satima Jitramani and family, Janwilai Kodchawat sees mother, David and Sirada Tomes, Soisandi and Stephen, and all the other faithful and generous lay people who have gathered together for this occasion. This offering is being made to the sangha, which has spent the 3-month rains retreat in this monastery. This Kathina cloth has come in as pure and unsolicited a way, as if it had wafted here on a breeze and settled in the midst of this assembly without favoring anyone in particular. However, the Lord Buddha has made a provision whereby the sangha can agree to choose which among them they would like to receive the cloth. This person must be one who knows the rules and observances concerning the Kathina ceremony, according to the terms laid down by the Lord Buddha, and must be one who knows the rules and observances concerning the Kathina ceremony, according to the terms laid down by the Lord Buddha, and must be one who can recite the aims and purposes of the Lord Buddha's teachings. They should be pure in moral conduct and have the mindfulness and wisdom to be able to understand the Dhamma in all its facets. This, then, is one who can fulfill all of the Lord Buddha's stipulations concerning the offering of the Kathina. So the assembly of bhikkhus must come to a unanimous decision as to which among them is best suited to receive the Kathina cloth.
This Kathina cloth and all these offerings are considered suitable for Chunda Bhikkhu. He is a bhikkhu of mindfulness and wisdom and can perform the Kathina ceremony correctly as established by the Lord Buddha. If any bhikkhu here disagrees, he should raise his objections now in the midst of this assembly. If everyone agrees, then they should express their agreement by saying sadhu in unison. Sadhu.
And now the chanting bhikkhus will bow 3 times to Longpa and return to their seats. And once they've returned to their seats, we'll invite Longpa to lead us in the Kathina Anumodana.
Okay, so the Kathina has been performed properly according to Dhammavinya, harmoniously with the bhikkhu sangha and the lay community, and they will formally do the blessing chant, and the blessing chant is an anumodana, which literally means to delight in the goodness that is done. As oftentimes it's not really, we use the term all the time, but sometimes it's easy to forget what its meaning is, and to acknowledge the goodness of all the generosity and willingness to put forth the effort to come on an occasion like this, and to help out with everything that makes this a special day, and the sangha would wish to give their blessing for and delight in the goodness that's done. So we'll lead the Anumodana. Yatha varivaha pula paripulenti sakarang evameva ito tiknang petanang upakapati ichitang bhatitang tumhang kipameva samichato sape parendu sangapa chandho panaraso yadha mani chotiraso yatha Samarogo vinlasato mate bhavatwandarayo sukhidikayuko bhava abhivatana sile sanichanguta pachayino jataro dhamma vadane ayuvano sukang Alla kale dadandi sapanya vadanyu vitamachara kale nadina ngari sutadaso vipasana manatasa vipola hondi dakina ye tata hanumodandi vayavachangarondiva na te na dakina hona te pipunya sabakino tasma dande apati vana jito yata dinna mahapalang punyani paralokasame patida hondi pani nandi bhavatu sapamangalang rakandu sabadevada Samba Bandhanupa Sata Sote Bhavandute Bhavatu Sapa Mangala Hurakandu Samba Devada Samba Dhammanubhavena Sata Sote Bhavandute Bhavatu Sapa Mangala Hurakandu Samba Devada Samba Sanghanupavena Sata Soti Bhavandute.
All right, the Kathina has been offered. We will now This is just the beginning of the day for us, and we have a long day of sewing. This is a special Kathina hand sewing. It's be the third year that we've done a hand-sewn Kathina, and so for anybody who is sticking around, you're welcome to poke your head into the dining hall and see what we're doing there. The sewing will commence, the drawing and cutting of the cloth will commence right away, so a few of the bhikkhus won't be able to be at the Dhamma talk, but after we do the closing homage, we will take a 10-minute break. Anybody who's still here and not having to head back is invited to listen to a Dhamma talk, by some Dhamma reflections by Longpa Viradhammo, and hang around for as long as you like. For those who are heading back, safe travels. I know some people have come from a long way away, driving from LA here this morning and back this evening back to LA, for example. So safe travels to everybody who does have to be heading back, and then for anybody who's staying, then just continue to enjoy, and we'll see you around. So we'll do the closing homage and then take a short break. Bow to the senior monk. Let's say Dhamma talk starting at 2:25, and that gives us sufficient break, but not too long. And thank you, everybody. So there will be a Dhamma talk now. Whoever wants to do the Dhamma talk request, there was somebody who was going to do it. Yeah, please, nobody else jump in. And once Longpo ascends the Dhamma seat, the request can take place. Well, he can also use this, which is, but it does go over the top. But it's kind of tall. Or it goes under the bottom. It goes like that. Is that how it goes? I'm also not a fan of this. And it can be raised too.
Oh, yeah, it should be. All right, sound okay?
She's going to request that.
Please. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Hello. Nice to be with you. Thank you to the sangha for inviting me, Ajahn Yaniko, and thank you for the lay people for supporting this beautiful monastery, and thank you all for coming. I think after COVID, places like this are even more significant than they were significant before, but now the whole importance of community and spiritual friendship, kalyanamitta, is so very apparent, and it's a joy to be with you today. We had our Kathina last weekend, and Ajahn Yaniko joined us, and Ajahn Suchito. So that was good, huh? Everyone, that was good? All right. These are the witnesses. And I thought I'd just start with a story I've been sharing a lot recently on generosity. Our lives are, in the Buddhist teaching, we often talk about the social conventions of our life, how to live socially, and recommendations on the way we communicate and the way we relate to each other and the planet and our societies. And then also the teaching talks about our inner world. They're not mutually independent, but an attitude to the inner world, an attitude of refuge so we understand ourselves. And obviously a huge part of Buddhist social dimension of a Buddhist life is generosity. And so I thought I'd just share the story to start. Our monastery, we have a small fund to try to support some charity each year on my birthday. And so in the past, we've supported a Cambodian orphanage and school, other things. And a couple of years ago, last year, a friend of ours who works for UNHCR was involved in the refugee work in Afghanistan when the Americans pulled out and other forces pulled out, and those people who were not on the Taliban side had to flee very, very quickly. And so we became in contact with 3 families of doctors who worked in, one of the men, he was the director of a hospital for 25 years and did all kinds of surgery, including pediatric trauma surgery. It's a very accomplished family, and his wife is a gynecologist, and his brother-in-law is a public health doctor. So these 2-3 families were in dire straits in Pakistan. They had made it out of Afghanistan, and they had permission from the Canadian government to come into Canada, but they were still having problems. So we helped them to get to Canada, and they got established quite well in Ottawa. And then I thought, well, we've got extra food. Let's bring some food to these families, and I'd love to meet them. So then Venerable Amar Siri was at that time teaching a retreat in Toronto, and he reminded me that he knew of an Afghani food store in Toronto. So, okay, the plot thickens. So he did the retreat, and then Usha, who was running the retreat, took him to the Afghani food store, and she said, whatever, just buy whatever you want, get whatever you want for these people. So the manager of the store asked, so how long has this family been in Ottawa? A couple of months. Oh, well, then they need everything. So they ended up buying $800 worth of groceries. They just went for it. Spices and, and it was all Afghani stuff. So then we brought the food to the monastery, and I said, I want to be a part of this. So we all went to the family, and it was just before Eid, and they really, they had enough food, but all the sweets and savories that they have for Eid now, they saw them, and they were just gaga. They couldn't believe their good fortune. And so we had a lovely contact with them, and they said, well, why don't you come for a meal? I said, well, we have to eat before 12. Fine, no problem. And so we went to their home for a meal. First time I've had a meal with an Afghani family. And they were just lovely family. They were so loving and caring. And then we invited them to the monastery, and they came and offered a meal at the monastery. And I was so happy, and they were so happy. The grandmother said, this is the first time she's enjoyed a meal in 2 years. I said, oh, I want to cry. And she said, if I lived near here, I'd come every week. Oh, no, that's happiness. So who was more happy, her or me? And hence generosity. It is that way. Quite often people will offer us things, and I'll say, oh, thank you. No, don't say thank you. I say thank you. Who says thank you? and so generosity is a kind of inner treasure, isn't it? And when you reflect on people who, I'm 77 now, so I really notice old age. Not that I'm not quite in the departure lounge yet, but the last chapter. But so what I notice is people who haven't developed refuge, who don't have memories of goodness and memories of generosity, that their inner lives are not very happy. But people who have acted generously, done generous deeds, taken care of their parents if possible, taken care of whatever social responsibilities they have this kind of treasure, don't they? This treasure of good memory, the treasure of beauty. So that part of our lives is very important. Obviously, we don't always have the resources, both psychological and material. Situations just demand that we just survive ourselves. Yeah, that's true too. But I'm taken by a phrase, just to paraphrase from the text, where the Buddha says to his monks, if you knew what I knew about generosity, you'd share your last grain of rice. And that's always struck me as something, yeah. So whenever there's an opportunity to share and to do good is a huge source of joy. It has to be done within social responsibility, so you can't give everything away and nothing for your kids, obviously. But that part of what I've learned very much from Theravada Buddhism, from our Asian roots, is this tremendous generosity, whether it's Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, and now here. So that's important and good and always good to reflect on. So this amazing generosity, just all this white cloth. They're going to have a lot of sewing. They're going to be busy monks. So this is beautiful. This is very, very beautiful. And we want to bring beauty into our lives. I've often thought, why as a human being, can I appreciate beauty? You ever thought about that? Like, do squirrels really look at the beauty of a red maple? Probably not. They're just going for the acorns in the oak tree. So we have this capacity to be beautiful and to notice beauty. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's like attachment to cultural beauty. Like when you're up in the sewing room in the mub, and there's a beautiful view of the valley, and you just look and you abide in the looking, your mind comes to silence, doesn't it? And this is the nature of our mind when we are not preoccupied with our cares and worries. If we can just abide in stillness, then we begin to see that beauty reflects something back to me about my own beauty, my own silence, my own stillness. That's a possibility. That's a very, very real possibility. We call that awe. But in modern culture, awesome is like a silly word now. Oh, that was an awesome piece of pie. Or it's kind of a degraded word. But what did that word really mean? Awe. All of us, I think, who are contemplatives and meditators, you come to the redwoods, you come to the seashore, and all of a sudden your mind just goes, goes silent. And that silence is always there. It's not the sea, it's your own possibility. Now, of course, the inner world is not always very silent. You've noticed. It can be pretty noisy with all its cares and worries and judgments and resentments and bad memories and its beautiful possibilities too. This morning I had a headache, and so I did the usual things I do with headaches. I had a coffee. Didn't work. Took a Tylenol. Didn't work. 2 glasses of water. Didn't work. Okay. Headache. So then I laid down and I just meditated for a couple of hours. And lying meditation is really good for pain or discomfort. And what a very interesting way of meditation is to bring up a sense of welcoming. Now, I did everything I could in my pathetic medical way of dealing with the headache. Wasn't unsuccessful. So, headache. I do headache. This morning's meditation is headache. Is it a headache that I have a headache? Is it a problem that I have a headache? So laying there, and I've done this oftentimes with pain, is just welcoming. Just welcome. Now, that doesn't mean I like the pain. Oh, great, I've got a headache. I can do welcoming today. That's not it, is it? It's actually something I don't want. I don't want there. I did everything to get rid of it, but now it's there. And in welcoming is a very, when you sustain welcoming, so it becomes more than just the headache. Because in welcoming something that is unpleasant, negative, your mind begins to abide in the silence of welcoming, rather than in the contraction around the resistance to the pain. You see what I mean? So the reaction to the pain is, I want to get rid of this, and tossing and turning or whatever. But this is not a reaction. It's an awakening to pain as an object, but not becoming the subject of the pain, not thinking, oh, I've got a headache, what am I going to do? It's not about thought, it's about getting to the background of awareness, which knows that pain feels this way. And why welcoming is very important there, because the desire mind does not want the pain. Obviously, I mean, that's its biological kind of necessity to get rid of the pain. Can't get rid of it. So then practicing welcoming for 2 hours. Welcoming, and then the pain comes up and vibrates, and you can feel the whole body just dealing with the pain. Bodies deal with pain. But more and more, the attention is no longer about the pain, it's about awareness. It's about welcoming itself. It's not about the object, it's about the background which knows the object, if you get what I mean. We can look at, I use this metaphor a lot, background, foreground. So the foreground was the bodily sensation. Now, this wasn't like a massive migraine where I want to cut my head off. It was a very doable kind of headache. And doable pain is actually very edifying. You can learn a lot from it. But so the foreground, you could say, is changing. So when I observe the pain of the headache, if I just try to observe it all the time, I'm very much caught in the contraction of the pain. But if I just witness it in a welcoming way, where I just open my mind and welcome, then the resistance to it is trying to get rid of it. I keep relaxing away from the resistance. And as I keep relaxing away from the object, the resistance to the object, what happens? What happens is I begin to take refuge in awareness. Because awareness, to be authentic awareness, must accept all things and reject none. Otherwise it wouldn't be authentic awareness. It has to be able to accept pain. Otherwise it wouldn't be awareness. So then a headache becomes actually quite an interesting exercise in refuge, in awakening the mind. And what is the result of that? What is the result? Sustaining something like welcoming in a very heartfelt way. Well, the result is then the mind has an openness and welcoming for the next 2 hours. Because that's what it's done. So it hasn't really been about the headache, it's about the non-attachment or non-grasping or welcoming. So for the next whatever period of time, the mind has openness and wonder and welcoming. And then something happens, and maybe I bite on a olive pit and my tooth breaks. And then my tooth hurts. And then there's the pain again. Because life does this all the time. Or then someone, even more difficult, maybe someone says, "You're a dropout, Viradamo. You just, what are you doing?" Like when we first went to Toronto, I went to Toronto the first time in 1977, and the Hare Krishna had been through the States and had made a bad name for themselves. So we were identified as Hare Krishna. And so people would yell out, "Hey, Harry, get a job." Stuff like that. Thanks a lot. So insults. People insult you. Or people offend you. Or something. Well, that's painful, right? That's a different kind. It's not a headache. It's a heartache. Huh? And so that heartache you take home, unfortunately. You sit down and then you feel the abuse. Well, that's too strong a word, but if you know what I mean. Or the shaming or the insult or whatever. And that is also kind of the same as a headache. It's an object. It's an object in awareness. Now, if you've learned how to deal with a headache, and then you've then understood what that exercise was about, that it wasn't about the headache, it was about the opening of the mind, and abiding as an open mind, as a welcoming mind. And you then intuit, remember, practice, okay, this is what being emotionally hurt feels like, and you welcome that. Same thing, a bit more difficult, because then it's very tempting to go into the language of revenge, hatred, and then if you're a really good Buddhist, then you feel guilty about revenge and hatred, and you think, I shouldn't revenge and hatred, I should only love all the time, and you'll just be caught in thought. And thought will not liberate you. Thought is a sankhara, it's a condition. So then you start to see thought, driven by emotion, as an object, and you come back to welcoming, 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 welcoming. So then all the conditions that arise and cease, you have to deal with them, you still have your social responsibilities, but you begin to find what we mean by refuge. A refuge is awareness of all things changing. And why I think the welcoming part is very, very important, because we always emphasize the compassion of the Buddha, don't we? And then when we talk about refuge, we talk about Putto as the awakened mind. So to be truly awake to the way things are, it cannot be a discriminative faculty. Like I discriminate, I like this, I don't like this is right, that's wrong. That we need to do in conventional life. I've got a flat tire, better fix it. How much is, we've got enough milk in the fridge, we better get some more. So we use discrimination, sure. But in terms of refuge and liberation, this is different. This is a different attitude to what's going on. So in talking about these two levels of Buddhist life, it's always good to remember that on one level, we're talking about social responsibility. And there we use the sense of I. I am Viradhammo. I live in Canada. I have a Canadian passport, conventional reality. And I have, my body's a certain age, and I have a doctor's appointment, normal things. And that's my individuality, which I inhabit. But then when we're talking about our inner world, we use a different kind of language. We use a language of stream of consciousness. So I can look at, let's say someone insults me. I can say, they did that to me, true. Or I can say, the feeling of insult feels this way. Now I'm observing this as an object in the stream of consciousness. One conditioning the other, conditioning the other, conditioning the other. We can do both, right? So the former, the social, is where I maybe take action. So someone is abusive at the office, and I say, no, that's immoral. So I address the problem in the office, and I go to the manager and say, this is wrong behavior. Fine, we do that. But even though I might do that and try to get some situation rectified in the right way, when I go home, stream of consciousness will be heavily affected by memory, by emotion, and all the other stuff that will be coming up. And if I'm not really conscious of my inner world, and I just allow the emotional memory traces just to drive my thinking, then I am a victim. There is no freedom in that. No freedom at all. And then if I'm not careful, then the habits of kind of emotional determinism they get strengthened because I think that way. So someone I know hates a former president of the United States, hates Putin, and hates religion. And they don't realize that they are putting in their stream of consciousness hatred. Doesn't matter who you hate. You can hate anyone you want, but in stream of consciousness, then hatred becomes more dominant. So everyone might agree with you. Yeah, no, that's a good thing to hate. Good on you. Don't believe it. Because stream of consciousness is affected by these attitudes we have. So this doesn't mean you like everyone, but you begin to say, no, you have to protect your mind from hatred and greed and delusion. And yet they come up, right? They come up into consciousness. We're not innocent. We all have our stuff to deal with. Maybe you had a rough childhood or there's some really deep unfairness. Maybe you're a refugee from Afghanistan and you saw your family killed or whatever it might be. So there is material that comes up which is quite strong, which is quite heavy and difficult to deal with. What to do? Well, first of all, see it as stream of consciousness rather than self. That is a big step. To see the pain I have or the joy I have as an object in awareness. It's a big step in humanity. When I can do that, then I begin to see, okay, that's not who I am. That's not my real home. What is my real home? It's the welcoming. It's the openness. Now, to trust in that's difficult because I usually don't trust in that. Take an example. Let's say you have to go to a board meeting. And in the board meeting, it's very boring. Or committee meeting, or, meetings. And the chairperson of the meeting is a windbag. You know what I mean? Talks a lot and is self-important. And you have to be there. You got no choice. He pays the bills. And you have to pay the rent. Okay, so you're sitting there, and like within 10 minutes, you are super bored. I mean, you're really, really bored. So what do? Well, you look at your clock. You look at him, whatever. But do you awaken to the fact that boredom feels this way? No, usually you become the bored person. And because you become the bored person, you're stressed. And then you start, then maybe you think, I should be doing Buddhism. May you be well, may you be well, may you be well. And you're hoping, shut up. You got it all wrong. It's true, isn't it? But you imagine, like a good contemplative says, boredom feels this way. Now you're seeing in stream of consciousness, with this as condition, with this guy's condition, with 10 minutes as condition, there is this feeling of not wanting. That's what I mean, like this big step of seeing that this is an object in awareness. And if you know that, and you say, boredom feels this way, and then what do? You say, welcome. Now, you're not saying welcome and talk for 6 hours. It's not that way. I hope you talk for 6 hours, because you don't. But you're saying to the very state of mind of boredom, welcome, welcome, welcome. So there is a potential there, if the meeting isn't too fractious and so on, there's a potential of cutting out of the meeting, quite wise. Because now you've seen boredom. You've seen boredom as an object. Most people just scroll through their telephones or whatever. So rather than look at boredom, the attention tends to go to another object. Either thinking object like hatred, or visual object like a screen, and you do your emails when he's not watching. Or you look at other things, the baseball scores or whatever. But all the time, what's the mind doing? It's always going out into objects. It's never with itself. It's never with the silence of being. And then that becomes a kind of emotionally determined habit because it's interesting. It's the interesting things to look at. So as soon as the mind feels boredom, which is unpleasant, attention goes out to seek the pleasant, and that is restlessness. There's no peace in that, and there's no refuge in it. The danger there is then, if you don't develop refuge, then when there are no distractions, when there is sickness or loss or grief, and you cannot distract anymore, where do you go? You have no, it's quite dangerous in that way. So taking up this sense of like, what is awareness? Is awareness, it's not having a certain particular kind of experience, because awareness has no quality, does it? Awareness of warmth, awareness of light, awareness of emotional content, but awareness itself is not anger. Is awareness angry, or does awareness know anger? Now the knowing we're talking about is not the knowing of Wikipedia. And it's not an intellectual exercise of knowing in that way. It's actually an experiential contact to how things actually are, before thought. So I feel the headache, or I feel the heartache, or I look at the boredom. And the beauty of this is as you start to do this and become interested in it, it can't just be like a duty. I'm a good Buddhist, so there I will do welcoming. Maybe it's a good idea, but it's because you're actually interested. You're interested in peace, but also interested in boredom as an object rather than be the subject. You're interested in anxiety or fear. Take something like anxiety. Let's say you have a job interview, say, and you haven't had work for 2 years, and you really need the work, and you're in debt and so on. So, and there's 100 people for one job. I mean, it's really an anxious situation. So what do? Well, you rehearse, right? And you kind of think, what am I going to do? But that's not really looking at anxiety. But what if in the feeling of anxiety you said, oh, anxiety feels like this, and you welcomed it? That's counterintuitive, because it feels like I should get rid of it by thinking more, but that makes it actually more tense. But if you have faith and trust and awareness, you begin to see, when there is a welcoming to anxiety, anxiety doesn't rule you. It's still there, depending on your karma, how strong it is. But you begin to see, I am not that anxiety. I am the knowing, I am the welcoming, I am the openness. And the more you trust in that, and this is at least what I find, the more you do that and trust that and do that and trust that and do that and trust that, for all kinds of situations, whether it's grief or joy or sorrow or whatever, the more you do it, the more intuitively, that's where you begin to abide. You abide as Buddha knowing Dharma, say. This is the language we use. You abide as witness. You abide as wonder, as openness, as welcoming. But you have to do it a lot. So first of all, you have to remember stream of consciousness rather than always be caught in your individual ego existence. That's important too. But you have to, and so I'm always recommending to people, do morning meditation. Really invest a lot of time into morning meditation because you're getting older. Ompa Chai used to joke, the old people would go to actually the old women would go, the elderly women would go, the men wouldn't. So, and then every Kathina maybe there'd be a few young people there, and he said, you young people, you never come to the monastery, you never meditate. And then when you're old, they whisper in your ear, Bhutto, Bhutto, and you die. I mean, that's not going to do it. That's not sufficient. Or something like that. So when there is vitality, when you have the resources and when you have the possibility to cultivate a practice, and I think mornings are very important because morning is before the ego's really gotten churning up and before the world kind of really grabs your attention. If you can invest some time into a sense of, say, welcoming. Imagine if you do that for half an hour every morning. What's the tone of the mind going to be for the next 2 hours? That's going to really help the tone of mind. Because the tone of mind is more welcoming, you'll notice attachment more. You notice grasping, you notice reaction more. Vice versa. Get up last second, brush your teeth and eat this toast at the same time and go to work. It's chaos. So chaos is the result. I'm sure no one does that, but so the spiritual life does require an investment of time. Sometimes we say quality time. Lompa Ajahn Sona says quantity time. You have to train the mind takes time. Like you think about tennis. If you did 10 minutes of tennis a day, you can, the next tennis game, the ball is going to hit you in the head. Or carpentry, or weaving, or cooking. All these things are skill-based, and the liberation of the heart is skill-based. It's a skill we develop, the skill of awakening, the skill of regarding. That's done in the format of good living, sila and dana. But cultivating this sort of inner awakeness It's not difficult like doing 100 push-ups, but for some reason people don't think it's productive. So they don't think it's important. So you have to be careful not to think you're going to get a product out of this called peace. Like if you think that your meditation will make you peaceful, you won't meditate. Lompa Chai used to say, if your meditation makes you peaceful, then meditate. If your meditation doesn't make you peaceful, then meditate. If you want to meditate, meditate. If you don't want to meditate, meditate. Because what you're doing in meditation is you're not cultivating experience, you're cultivating attitude to all experience. If you have a morning meditation when you feel really out of sorts, and you say, oh, this is what out of sorts feels like, or this is what grumpiness feels like, or this is what irritation feels like, and you do that for half an hour, that's a very powerful meditation, because you haven't bought in to the particular mood of mind. You've seen it as an object rather than become the subject. And then if you put into that the sense of welcoming, then you begin to see when we talk about awareness, we also talk about metta. Now, metta bhavana is usually constructed as a me and a you. May I be happy, may you be happy, may all people in Ukiah Valley be happy, and may all Republicans be happy, all Democrats be happy, whatever way you want to go with that. May all Canadians be happy. So it's always kind of dualistic. But this way of metta bhavana is seeing that awareness and metta are really one thing. They have to be one thing, because otherwise you wouldn't be accepting all things. You could only accept all things if you allow them to be what they are. That's not a moral statement. It's a contemplative statement. Morally, no, this is wrong, this is incorrect, can't do that. So I'm talking about the inner world, about stream of consciousness. And that's where I think this idea of welcoming is. It's a form of metta. But who likes to welcome anxiety, right? Or who wants to welcome your own anger? Welcome anger. No, you want to get rid of it, or you lash out. But if you say, oh yeah, anger feels this way, and you welcome it authentically, then you begin to see what refuge is and where the peace of the mind. And then, so what happens are these tendencies towards anxiety and fear, they begin to cease because you're not fueling them anymore. You're not getting rid of them. They get rid of themselves. They're just natural. They're forces in nature that begin to fall away. And the mind has more and more capacity for wonder, for joy, for silence, for peace. Very naturally. It's not constructed. So I wish, just to close, I'd just like to offer my congratulations to the sangha here, Ajahn, to all your good efforts and all the good folk here. And from our community at Tisarana, your small friendly neighbors up north, you have neighbors there. Canada. We wish you well, and hopefully we'll see you for many Kathinas. Ewang.
Not quite sure what to do next. Maybe verses of sharing and aspiration, and the formal part of the day. And again, if for anybody who's hanging around, you're welcome to check out the sewing, take some photos, harass the monks. Some of the long paws might be cruising around. So, it's page 33, verses sharing aspiration in English. And putting stuff away. Yeah, especially all the blue, like the blue mats and the zafus. That's incredibly helpful if people help put those away.
Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Kathina 2024. Rip Roy Lao. I don't think we need to do another closing. We already did that. Chön Tam Matthias.